Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get? Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comment section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Under the Lights. We're going to be hanging out tonight, talking some Seattle Sounders and Major League Soccer. The haters said I was going to be late. We already got chat going off, but I would never be late for Under the Lights. We're back at it. It's match day 33 this weekend, and the Seattle Sounders are playing. This is a team that we don't know a lot about, haven't seen a lot of them this year, okay? It's a novel opponent. You don't get to see these guys very often. So, you know, when these games come around, it's a special occasion. It's the LA Galaxy coming to town. They'll be headed to Lumen Field this time. Seattle has played the LA Galaxy twice in the last 3 weeks. They're going to play them again, this time in Seattle. So we'll be previewing that matchup a little bit. I don't really have all that much to say about the LA Galaxy, but we'll talk about how they should line it up with another rematch with Inter Miami, the Barca boys, and the Crash Out Crybabies. That's coming up. It's coming up on Tuesday on short rest. So we'll talk about how they should balance the lineups for those games and stuff like that. I'm going to spin the Schmetz presser in a second here while we wait for people to trickle in. We'll react a little bit to what Schmetz has to say. And then, as always, I'll try and let you guys steer the ship as much as you want. If you got questions, topics, agendas, observations, grievances, drop them in chat. I'll get to as many as I can. But that's basically the plan for tonight. I'm going to be hopping off maybe a little earlier than usual. These usually go for like couple hours. I'm gonna be hopping off around 9 tonight because I'm going on a Galaxy podcast. That's right. Gonna be spreading the gospel of Lobbing Scorchers. I gotta get this right. La Cuna Galaxiana, Galaxy podcast and YouTube show. Gonna be going on their show at around 9. So if you want to watch me on another podcast, you can hop on over there then. But until then, we're gonna be hanging out and talking about the Seattle Sounders who, I've been saying it's kind of like back to reality. We've been living in fantasy land. We've been living in Leagues Cup fantasy land. We've had matchups against Lionel Messi and the Barca boys that have ended in brawls that have gone internationally viral. This is back to the grind. This is the stretch run of the MLS regular season here, and there's still a lot to play for. There's home field advantage specifically in the MLS Cup playoffs to play for, and the Seattle Sounders are fighting for that. So it's a rare LA Galaxy match, but points wise, this matters. Okay, so this whole last stretch, I think there's 7 games left or something like that. Every one of these is going to be big as far as home field advantage in the playoffs really matters. I think we saw that last year when the Seattle Sounders played the LA Galaxy. If they had not dropped points during the regular season and had that game at home, it could have been different. And I think Lumen Field in the playoffs is a different animal. as we've kind of seen, as we saw in Leagues Cup, they were hosting most of those games, all of those games, and it worked out in their favor. So got to get home field advantage. The push for that starts on Saturday at Lumen Field against an unfamiliar foe, the LA Galaxy. All right, I'm going to let this Schmetz presser rip in a second here. Before I do that, go ahead and like the video, please. Sub to the channel. Follow us on all socials, Instagram and TikTok. Also, check out the, if you haven't, the podcast that we dropped earlier this morning. I had Tim Foss filling in because Noah's on vacation, you know, not a fake grinder. But I had Tim Foss of Sounder at Heart co-hosting. It was a great show. We reacted to the Luis Suarez suspension and then hit a few of the broader agendas and topics related to the Seattle Sounders. Good discussion. So if you have not listened to that yet, you can watch it on this channel or on any audio platform that you desire. All right, I'm gonna rip the Schmetz presser, but I'll hit a couple of items in chat. Looks like we got it flowing here, so let's see what the people have to say. Is CR7 playing Saturday? Rather have him rest for Miami. That's a good question, and I think that topic is actually, that's one of the things we're gonna hit, is kind of how they should do this with the Galaxy game on Saturday and then this Inter Miami game coming right up on Tuesday. It's sort of a matter of which one you rotate for. The way I see it, it could end up being a situation where it's like half rotated, half first choice guys. But I think, to me, when I look at it, it's like, which one of these do I throw the whole book at? Which one of these do I put a more rotated lineup out there? And you could argue, in fact, I am going to make the argument that they should throw the book at this Galaxy game and then throw out a little bit of a more mix and match starting 11 in Miami. We'll see how they do it. Oftentimes we talk about squad rotation and then the graphic comes out and it's just the same 11. You already know. I mean, to answer your original question, Magno, I mean, it's going to be the Christian Roldan, Obed Vargas double pivot. What are we talking about? Galaxy fan here. I know we're rivals, but mad respect to you guys on the Leagues Cup win. Love the consistency from Seattle. Hey, thanks for stopping by, man. Respect to you guys as well. Looking forward to playing again. It's like there's only two teams that Seattle is playing right now. You got the LA Galaxy, got the Barca boys, the crash out crybabies. Do we play anyone else? Can get a different opponent. Show the Leagues Cup teaser. Are you talking about? I don't know if I have that. You might be talking about the vlog that we're putting out. Sorry, we've been delayed on that. I promise it's going to be worth it. It turns out making those is quite the endeavor, but we're going to have that out as soon as we can. I think in the next couple days, I can hopefully commit to that, but keep your eyes peeled for that because it's going to be fire. I've seen the drafts and the early versions, and ooh, man. What teaser are you talking about though? I don't know if I have that. But if I do have that, I'll play it. But first, I'm going to play the Schmetz presser while we get churning here. First, I have to find it. What? Sorry, guys. This is not good tech. Here it is. All right. My bad. This is the Schmetz presser from yesterday. Reacting a little bit to Leagues Cup, talking about the brawl. There's a lot that Schmetz had to get through here. So I'm just going to let this play. We'll react to it afterwards while we wait for people to keep trickling in.
Though with the biggest talk has been Pedro and Messi saying that he blackballed him from joining the national team. What can you kind of share? Do you know anything about that? What can you kind of share about?
Well, I don't know what they discussed on the field. What I would give you is my feelings on the matter. Players say things to other players in the heat of the moment. And maybe there was something said
via Seattle Sounders FC.
You're not good enough to play.
Sorry.
Or maybe there could have been something like that. I don't know. But I don't think Messi he's not in charge of the Argentinian national team as far as I'm concerned. So, I think that's a talking point, certainly. The talking point of the whole melee, the frustrations that Miami had, all those are talking points. But I'd bring it right back to, why was he upset? Well, Messi was upset because Pedro was having a good game. And Messi was upset because Obed was having a good game. So that to me is, again, the story.
How do you feel about the way that your team handled after?
It was good. The players were good. The players were trying to separate. There were some pretty hot guys there. A lot of young men that were frustrated. There was a lot of men that were trying to protect their own. But I thought our team was trying to break things up.
Brian, staying on that topic, I just wanted to get your take on the additional suspensions put by the league, and the fact that a guy like Lionheart gets his credit just taken away the whole year, but a guy like Busquets gets no games, and there's 3 games for Suarez. I mean, there seems to be some inconsistency as far as some things.
Look, just so I'm clear, when you asked me that question about how did we do, I'm talking about the players. Steve understands his new role in the club, and he understands he can't do that. And that's a learning moment for him, and he's going to be better for it. As far as the suspensions for the league and all that sort of stuff, it's out of my control. I mean, it's like the league has to do something. In their opinion, they did something. The League's Cup had to sanction things because it was their event. They obviously feel like they did
double
the right
audio
thing. And, there's a lot of chatter, and should there be more? Should there be less? I don't bother to go into those sometimes, Nico, because it just doesn't, I don't control that. Control the controllables is one of my favorite sayings. And the referees have a hard job. I thought the referee that game did a decent job. I thought he was good. So I just don't comment on them.
At least one more from that match. I know today's about moving forward, but there's a 14-year-old I talked to who's had the privilege to see a lot of sporting events in Seattle. Loves basketball, loves football. Said that match was the greatest atmosphere he's ever been around. As somebody that is a little older than 14, that's seen a lot. How special was that? What you saw and what you felt?
We can talk more about the Miami game, because I love talking about it in that sense. I mean, the atmosphere, tremendous. The performance of the team, tremendous. I mean, you're talking earlier to Obed, but he's, already got a lot of juice. He's got 100+ games. You talk about Osaze. You want to talk about Alex Roldan, who sometimes gets criticized by various groups of people. And, he's MVP. And you get the not the goal scoring guy. Pedro was MVP. Alex was MVP of the game. Andrew was the top goalkeeper for the tournament. I mean, there were a lot of good things happening in that game. And the fact that this club still is the connection between fans and players, those players played harder because of the fans, because of the atmosphere. I loved that, the whole Rothrock jersey change. Some of that sort of stuff was so good. It just added to it. And then Paul finishing him off. Couldn't have scripted a better, louder cheer at the end when I took him off for Kim Ki-hee. I mean, there were so many good points of that game. And, what I said in the locker room afterwards, it was one of the biggest moments of my life. It was way up there.
What can a performance like that do in terms of setting you up for the rest of the year? And how do you go about sort of, you have the experience with 2022, and how do you sort of avoid that sort of situation?
So internally as a coaching staff, we talked about it. What were the learning curves from 2022. What was the, the reflection on that season? Longer run up, like, more games. There was some things where we started off okay in 2022 right after we'd won, but then we fell off. Why did we fell off? Physical, mental fatigue, all that sort of stuff. It's a shorter runway. So coaches, we talked about it internally. I've already mentioned it first day back again this morning, about 7 games to go, refocusing. The Galaxy being a dangerous opponent. They're going to play young kids that are excited to play, that are playing for jobs, because Greg played some young guys, and Peck's out, and they've got some things. So that's going to be a hungry team, and it makes them a dangerous team. And what also makes them a dangerous team, this was the message I told them, is LA Galaxy is a dangerous team if we're complacent, or if we think that, well, we've already beat them this year and it's just we're gonna show up and we're gonna win. That makes them a dangerous team. So we've been measuring pretty hard and reflecting back internally about 2022 for sure.
And then on the goalkeeper situation, you mentioned Andrew won goalkeeper of the tournament. Steph has been playing well when he's been back in. How do you balance those two players right now?
Hardest decision right now for me is, what are we going to do? Steph has been here for many years, won us a lot of trophies. He was the number one guy. Is he still the number one guy? Yeah, but Andrew could be the number one guy as well. I mean, those guys are such good competitors, such good guys in the goalkeeper union. Steph was so happy for Andrew. You saw all the photos. Andrew is so accepting that he knows that Steph is, coming to the end of his career, and my time's coming, and he has some patience, and Steph still wants to compete. That whole scenario is, in my opinion, another just testament to what Tommy does with that group on a daily basis. And it's a tough choice for me.
So it's something that you haven't decided yet as far as
No.
this weekend.
No.
And then what about, we've heard different updates. So as far as JP, Jordan, and Albert being out here today, what is their?
They're all in full training. So again, we're going to wait through tomorrow, Jada, to make sure we get a full injury count, because Pedro's dealing with the tendonitis and JP's a little bit further back than Jordan and Albert. Albert's for sure going to be involved. Jordan, if he can, finalize the last testing, then he gets bumped and he's got to grab and he's got to push. But he's really close. He wants to play. Well, JP, they all want to play, Jada.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you have to save them from themselves.
When you say he'll be fluent, are you saying that Albert can be available?
Yes. Yes.
Saturday, and
Yes.
the rest are.
Is that a desire to play what has Jordan relatively, is he ahead of time? Is he right on time? He feels like he's ahead of time.
Yeah, I think we were going for Miami Austin week, so it might be a game, but it's really only 3 days. He's ahead by 3 days.
When you look back at your performance as a head coach in League's Cup, and just kind of the way you've rotated the entirety of the squad, everything working for you, how do you keep that also moving forward? We talk about the players, but you as a head coach mentally in your study and things like that.
The motivation of the coaching staff is always high. I am a hate to lose type of guy. Brecky might be more on my side as well. Freddie, Andy, Tommy, they like to win. Actually, Tommy hates to lose. We're pretty driven in there. We're driven by a lot of different things because we're different individuals. But the coaching staff has done a tremendous job on helping me make good decisions about lineup choices, their guidance on the bench. It's been a real team effort, and I think we've done a great job.
You have a game coming up clearly, but the Tuesday game in Miami is very close.
Yeah.
There's a lot there, right? I mean, there's the emotions, there is the rotation. How are you preparing for that game?
Well, we're going to prepare for it once we're done with the Galaxy.
When it comes to that, I mean, the brawl happened, right? Do you feel like the guys might be more motivated, less motivated?
We'll deal with that after the Galaxy.
You, with that though, you gave your players a significant amount of time off.
Yep.
Yet, how did they seem to respond to that today. I'm
They're good.
assuming, is this the first
No.
day that you saw everybody?
We had them Saturday, Sunday, then off Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, okay. So-
Yesterday was a, inside day, not an outside day. So they had Monday off their feet. It's mental recovery. It's physical recovery. MLS is a long season. And, we've had a lot of games. We are on track for, this is, I think in our history, the longest season, that we're going to have, knock on wood, we go through a deep run in the playoffs, but it's a lot of games and they needed both the physical rest and the mental rest.
So you could tell that they were refreshed then for the first part of the day back.
It's another beautiful fall day, and I mean we're having a good time. Guys are in good spirits, Jada.
One more about Alex, or about Andrew and Steph. You've never rotated two goalkeepers within an MLS, within MLS play. Is that a possibility that you might go back, or do you feel like you need to settle on one?
I will tell you, I will settle on one. And in my mind, I know kind of where I'm leaning. But, it's in the past, I would say, there's competition and was a competition. Steph's won every, it's real competition. And performances are going to dictate who's going to play.
And fair to say this is a unique situation that you've faced then.
It's a unique situation I faced, but I will definitely pick a guy and we will go with it.
Is there going to be like some sort of also conversations when it comes to when Jordan's back and ready and Masowski's plays? And
I've already had those conversations with Jordan, with Albert, with Young Lasaze, with Masowski. Who else? With Pedro, Paul. I've had conversations with all the players, just reminding them that the strength of this team is the collective, that the best thing they can do is push their teammates. And if they're not in the group, train hard, be ready for your opportunity. I've had those conversations with everybody, specifically with the guys coming back from injury. They got to show me that they're ready to go. That's a given.
When you're talking about Fry and Andrew, is it a matter of like giving them each a game up here to make that final?
Jada, since you're pressing me, I'm going to give you this nugget. Okay, I'm going to give you this answer. So in my mind, what I'm thinking about is: do we give the group that won a semifinal 2-0 and a final 3-0? So scored 5 goals, kept a clean sheet in 2 straight games. Do I give that group another game? Or do they deserve that? Or do I go back and say, well, look, we got 7 games left and I got to incorporate Jordan and Albert and get back to things. That's my deliberation. And that you guys will see the outcome of that on the weekend.
I wanted to get your takes on Christian Roldan's performance with the
Really
national
good.
team.
Really good. I mean, 3-2, the way Potagino put the team up is exactly how Christian fits and plays, and he was good with Adams, just as good. I mean, there's going to be some guys that are negative, but he made one bad pass. Okay, well, the center back made a bad pass. They might have scored on. So, look, those kind of things happen, but tactically, you saw Christian understanding when Arston was higher up the field, coming out here, receiving balls, relieving pressure. His defending, you can see his body language saying, come on, let's press, let's get organized. His leadership skills. I thought Christian had a great game.
Thanks, Coach.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. I think a few things to talk about there. Sorry. A few things to talk about there that I took down. Number one, Schmetz just seems like he's vibing. He's still on cloud 9. And I think it's interesting that he said multiple times, he said right after the game when they were celebrating in the locker room, and he said right there, he said stuff to the effect of like this was one of the biggest games of my career, one of the biggest wins of my life. I think in the locker room after the game, he said this is like one of the best days of my life. And Schmetz has won a lot of trophies at this point. He was the one coaching the team when they won their first ever MLS Cup. He was the one coaching when they became the first MLS team to ever win the real modern incarnation of CONCACAF Champions Cup. So it might sound funny that winning a Leagues Cup, which is a lot of people call it a made up cash grab tournament, and even no matter what you think of it, it's only been around for like 3 years. So, why did that feel like such a big win to him? I think it's kind of what I've been saying when people ask me about it, which is that like the reason that felt so big wasn't because it was for Leagues Cup, wasn't like the trophy in itself. It was how they did it and who they did it against that made it feel like this larger than life occasion. It wasn't the tournament. It was it was everything that went into that whole game. And obviously the opposition does play a big part in that. Would he have been saying it's one of the best wins of his career if it had been Orlando City in that game? Maybe, but it being against Messi and the crash out Barca boys, that makes it like that, for a fact. So just the fact that he is reacting to it like that, I think kind of just confirms what we all already felt, which is that was one of the biggest games in the history of the club. It was one of the biggest wins in the history of the club. And that one's going to get remembered forever. And it's not going to be because, we won Leagues Cup in the 4th year of Leagues Cup. No, it's because Messi and the Barca boys came into our house for a final thinking that they were going to leave with that trophy. And not only did that not happen, they got played off the field and crashed out so badly that they made international headlines for their crash out. I think when history looks back on that game, it's going to hold up. It's going to stand the test of time. And I think how much Schmetz is reveling in it speaks to that. He also was reacting to the suspensions that got handed down from the league, or the suspension, I guess, to Luis Suarez and Steven Lenhart. That's the other big suspension. I think it's like the most random part of all of this. The whole thing was crazy enough. But you got Steven Lenhart, the Bash brother, who I didn't know that he was this mental health coach. I didn't know that. The first I heard of him being affiliated with the team was when he was out there swinging post game. And all of a sudden he becomes a central character to all of it. They give him 5 games and revoke his game day credential, which I want to say something about that, which is like that part of their issue was like he doesn't have any game day function, so he shouldn't have been down there. I feel like the team should get to decide who they want down there. What if the mental health coach, what if they want him like talking to guys on the bench? What, since when is that determined by anyone else other than the team and the coaching staff? Like, who gets that access? I mean, I don't know, whatever. I definitely don't dispute that he got suspended. I think they are, or I don't dispute like the merit behind them suspending him. I think they're more steamed at Steve Lenhart than I think is merited. But when you're the mental health coach and there's a situation like that, you can't really get in the middle of it and take a couple swings and expect to get out of that scot-free. I get that. It just feels like such a random aspect to all this. But, and also I think that there's an element, I think too, of we got to do something to give the portrayal that we're punishing both sides or whatever. So if they get Lenhart, that's a way to be like, we're punishing Seattle too, but it's not a player, I guess. Suarez getting 3 games, you know, I've been saying I feel like that's a little light. But if they want to argue, look, he already got the 6. He already got the 6 for Leagues Cup. What he did was so egregious that we're going to hit him with 3. But this isn't our tournament. It's not really our thing. So we're not going to go crazy and hit him with like 6 to 8. I would have hit him with 6 to 8, but I'm biased. So if they want, like, if they want to give Suarez 3 and call it a day, I think it's a little light, but that's whatever. But I still don't understand how Busquets doesn't get anything. Busquets was one of the key instigators. He instigated just as much as Suarez. He punched Obed. People have been arguing semantics about the term punch in this scenario because it was more of a jab. He didn't hit him particularly hard, but that's a closed fist contact to the face. All right. And whether you want to call it a punch or not, that was one of the inciting events for the whole thing. And just the fact that these two late 30s men, Luis Suarez is 38, Sergio Busquets is 37. They're fighting a 20-year-old. Like we should all be clear about what was happening there. We had 2 men in their late 30s, both instigating a fight with a 20-year-old. Suarez goes up to him and puts him in a headlock, and then Busquets hits him in the face. And that is what started the whole thing. That's why I think it's so funny that Inter Miami's been going with the we got provoked. They instigated this. We wouldn't have done that if they hadn't provoked it. Your 42-year-old players provoked it. We all saw it on video. What? Literally, this is what happened. There was some jawing. There was some trash talk between the parties in the immediate aftermath. I'm sure Obed said something to Suarez. Sure he did. Suarez didn't take too kindly to it. And he charges at Obed and puts him in a headlock. Obed gets out of it. And then Busquets comes over, hits Obed in the face. And then Cody Baker gets in Busquets' face and is like, why did you just do that? He was giving Busquets a piece of his mind. And then Falcone comes in from out of left field, puts Cody Baker in a headlock, and then it all starts from there. So we want to talk about instigation. We want to talk about provocation. Okay. It was Luis Suarez and Sergio Busquets who did that. So all of which is to say, I think Busquets should have gotten something. Like, if he doesn't hit Obed in the face, it might not escalate to that. And it's also the principle of it. You're 37. You're widely considered one of the greatest players at your position of all time. Why are you fighting a 20-year-old? Why are you hitting a 20-year-old in the face? He should get suspended for stupidity for that. They should have given Busquets a couple games for stupidity, and then Suarez should have got 6 in the league. 3 for the spitting, and then 3 for his own stupidity. Stupidity needs to be suspendable in this situation. I don't care how hard the punch was. It's the principle of the matter. You are 37. But I mean, I think I said this on the podcast, but like for me, the international embarrassment that they made of themselves in that situation, that's, you know, they can get off without suspension. Sergio Busquets, Falcone, they're suspended in my heart from the embarrassment that they put on themselves through how they acted. Knew who would be out for the season for stupidity. He would have gotten a couple more games for throwing the ball in the stands, that's for sure. But I do think a lot of people have brought up, like, you know, what if the roles were reversed? What if a Seattle player spit on somebody What if João Paulo walked up to Benjamin Kramashi after the game and hit him in the face? What do we think the discipline would be? Do we think it would be 3 games that Suarez got if JP had spit on an Inter Miami staffer? Or punch Benjamin Kramashi or Noah Allen or something in the face? I have a hard time thinking that it would have been the same discipline. I feel like anyone who's arguing that Inter Miami is getting a little bit of special treatment here, it's hard to disagree. But so it goes. They're Inter Miami, I guess. They get to do stuff like that. They get to sign another DP. They're probably going to get a 5th DP for this. I don't know if can Suarez's rep be more cooked than it already is. Like it already was cooked. The guy's been biting people for his whole career. I knew that he was a maniac and a hothead. I mean, everyone has seen the biting stuff. I went back and watched like the YouTube compilation of him biting people in the aftermath because I hadn't watched that in a while. It's just I feel like I'm trying to understand what's going through someone's head when they're in a situation like that, because I'm not a big lose my temper kind of guy. I don't get in that headspace very often. It happens, but like for it to happen to the point where you bite somebody, I mean, he's the only athlete I've ever heard of that's had 3 instances of biting somebody. But biting and spitting, stuff like that, you have to be so out of your mind. And clearly it's like he's got anger issues. But even with that taken into account, how is it possible, especially for as long as he's been playing, if it's like a kid at the beginning of their career, you can maybe understand how it would happen more. He's a 38-year-old man. He hadn't bit anyone in a while before he spit on Gene. But he was known to do that. I think it's just it must just be this blinding rage that puts you in this just crazy headspace that I can't relate to or really even fathom. Reddy had a sports psychologist to help him. Apparently it did not work. Yeah, he might need to book a couple more of those sessions after that. He mentioned in his non-apology, he was like, I really regret the effect this has on my family. The people around me suffer when I do stuff like this. And I wonder how they, like the people in the inner circle of Luis Suarez, and he gets back to Miami, like, dude, you spit on the security guy? Your 37-year-old teammate punched a 20-year-old? What are we talking about? Sounders would have to forfeit the season if it was reversed, no doubt. Yeah, like there's just no way. There's just no way. Reverse any name that you want. If they punch someone in the face and spit on someone, imagine if Nuhu did it. Imagine if Nuhu did what Suarez did. You think he would get 3 games? Come on. And you could say, Nuhu's had a history this season. Suarez is the definition of a guy who has a history. I don't know about Busquets. Busquets, as far as I knew, was a perfectly nice guy. But I watched him punch Obed Vargas and start that brawl. So I don't know. I don't really like that guy anymore. He doesn't sit well with me. 37-year-old man out there going crazy. We got off on a tangent there, but Schmetz was diplomatic enough about the suspensions and the brawl. The goalkeeper debate. Thought that was interesting. What would you guys do? What would you do, chat? I think the thing that's interesting about this situation is for next year, I think the calculation is relatively simple. Next year, you can be like, all right, we're doing the transition. Because Steph has said he wants to play, and if he wants to play, he should play. I want him to play. But I do think that you need to go into next year with the idea that the transition is happening and that Andrew Thomas is going to be your number one. And we've seen this year why you need two good goalkeepers. So if I see next year as an exact role reversal, Andrew Thomas is the 1A starter, and then you know how Andy T got Leagues Cup this year. Steph, give him Leagues Cup next year. Give him spot starts when it makes sense. But I think for the rest of this year in the playoffs, that's you saw Schmetz in the press conference there. Kind of, he was honest about how that has been a tough coaching dilemma for him because on one hand you got a club legend, one of the best players in the history of the club, who was performing to I don't know. Some people might see it differently. I think Steph was having a good season on the field this year. He was out there doing his thing, making his saves. He saved Seattle's ass a few times this year when he was out there, like he always does. So it's not like there's nothing performance-wise to where it's like where it would make the decision easier, because he was performing, to my memory. But then you have the heir apparent who just started through this whole magical tournament run, right? And he showed why he's the heir apparent, and it just feels like if you know he's going to be the starter next year anyway, then it makes more sense to give him just the lion's share of the starts through the end of this year. Just start doing it, and that's sort of where I lean if I had to, if I was the one making the choice. But it's also, that's tough. I mean, can't be an easy conversation to have with a club legend who didn't do anything performance-wise to merit not being the starter. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. These next two games, he can probably be like, all right, I'm going to start Andrew Thomas in the Galaxy game, and then start Steph for the Miami game, or vice versa. But he also did say that it's not going to be mix and match rotation where he's alternating them. He said he is planning on picking a guy and sticking with that guy as the first choice, number one. He also did say that he is leaning a particular way, but didn't say which way he's leaning. I think, if I had to guess, I'm just guessing. If I had to guess, I think he's leaning toward his hand in the reins to Andy T. I think that might be how he's leaning. It just makes sense when you think about not just the rest of this season, but the future of the club at the position. But it's tough, man. It's tough. I don't know. That's one of those ones where I don't envy having to make that call. Whenever someone loses switch. Yeah. How about every time someone concedes a goal, you just yank them immediately, put the other guy in. Then if you concede another goal, Alex Roldan, suit up. You're going back in. Injury updates. Albert Rusnak, Jordan Morris, João Paulo, all in full training. So that was good to hear. I'm really, I don't know about you guys. I'm really excited to have Jordan back and see what he can do for this offense, because the chance generation on this team is so good right now. Being a number 9 on this team must be so freaking fun. Like the chances that the attack is generating are like a number 9's dream. And we've seen the benefits that has had for both Moose and Osaze. And I just think that Jordan is going to benefit from that as well, but with a sort of added element of the stuff we all know he brings to the table as far as stretching the field, making those runs in behind, which that's not as much Moose's game. Moose is actually a little bit better at that than I give him credit for. He's just not Jordan Morris at it. I will say though, Osaze has a little more Jordan Morris in his game than I thought too. I think in that semifinals game in LA is where you first really started to see that. A couple of those plays where he ended up on breakaways, it wasn't like a sprint in behind on a through ball the way that you see Jordan do. But I'm thinking of the one in particular, the breakaway that he had saved, where De La Vega was running down a long ball and he was racing a guy to the ball, and then Osaze just came in and picked it off and was on the breakaway. He's got a little more of that to his game than I thought, and he's been showing that in those last couple games. But again, it's not the same as Jordan making those runs when he is getting in behind, putting the CBs under pressure all game. I think when you have a team that's generating as good a chances as this team is right now, and you add in a forward that's got more of those kind of dynamic traits to their game, where Osaze, he has some of that stuff, but he's raw. Moose's strength is positioning, poaching, and he's been getting a ton of goals, but he's not the physical presence. He's not the runner, the raw athlete that Jordan is. So I'm excited to have him back to see what he can bring to the offense. And also, every time he's played this year, he has looked pretty lights out to me. He has 4 goals and he's played like 3 games. So it's really there's nothing that's could have stopped him this year other than getting injured as much as he has. So that's exciting. I know Reese isn't, but I'm excited to have Rusnak back. I like that front 3, or that band of 3 of De La Vega, Rusnak, and then Ferreira out there. We talked about it on the pod, but I have no like hesitation with Ferreira moving back out wide. And the Rusnak Morris duo, I just think it's not even like, some people, I think, rightfully are concerned in these situations about changing the hot hand. The way I see it, at least when we're looking at Leagues Cup, the whole team has been the hot hand. Doesn't matter who they've been thrown out there. So when you have the vibes going like they've been going, and then you have guys with the skills of Albert Rusnak and Jordan Morris to add into that, I think this team could play even better. Maybe. It's hard to imagine them playing better than they played in Leagues Cup. I mean, they had a 16-2. They outscored their opponents 16-2, undefeated the whole tournament, and were basically laying waste to everyone except Puebla, who, let's be real, they were not playing real soccer. But hey, I mean, you get 2 of your DPs back. That could even elevate the level. So hopefully we get to see that. We'll see how they do it over these couple games, but I'm hoping we get to see them play together for at least a portion of one of these games, which I think we will. It sounds like they're in full training. Eric getting the super chat train started with the 5. Thanks for the support. Appreciate you. If the Sounders are chasing a game, who comes in as second striker, Saze or Moose? It's a great question. I do think that Moose is going to be starting the game on Saturday, and then Jordan's going to come off the bench. But let's tackle this. Let's tackle this assuming that Jordan, like for a game where Jordan is starting and he's fully fit. I mean, I think the answer is Moose, but you got to find places to get Osaze his run. You have to. He earned it. He earned it. The guy was out there in the League's Cup final scoring the first goal. He had 4 goals in the tournament. He's played in like 8 games this year. He's got 5 goals. I'm not sure if that's the exact number, but he's scored a lot of goals. He has scored 5 goals in not a lot of games. And there's a lot of upside to be had if he can continue developing and producing the way that he has. That's a very valuable, potentially valuable asset. I saw Joe Lowry, noted pundit, say that he thinks Osaze can develop into an $8 million striker, is the term that he used. I don't know if he's going to get to that price tag, but if he keeps developing like this and keeps scoring goals, other clubs are going to take notice. And you throw in the fact that it's Dwayne D-Rose, the son of Dwayne D-Rose. I think other clubs put stock in that as well. I know I put a lot of stock in that. So you do have to find your opportunities to get Osaze run. It's one of those ones where it's like, oh, what do? You have 3 super awesome number 9s. That's a good problem to have. But like, you need to get Jordan back in there. Obviously, it's your DP9, and just see what the offense looks like with someone of his skill set in there. But Moose has 15 goals all comps. If Moose was getting the full complement of minutes, he could hit 20 goals this year. He has 13 in league play in it's still not even that many minutes. I'm going to look it up right now, but it's not that many more than 1,000 minutes in the league. It's crazy how efficient he's been. Moose has 1,328 minutes in the league this year. He has 13 goals, 2 assists. It's bananas. So I think the answer to that question is Moose, but Osaze's got to play. $9 bazillion. I think on Saturday it's gonna be Moose starting, and I hope they give Jordan, however fit he is, if it's 15 to 20 minutes. I was gonna say I hope they give him 30, but I think you're gonna see Moose start, play a little bit into the second half, Jordan sub on, and then for me, this is what I think the debate is. Do you rotate more against the Galaxy? The premise being, we beat the Galaxy twice. They're not having a good year. They're down there wooden spoon contention. Do we try and rotate a little bit more for that game, and then throw the book at the Inter Miami game with the more fully first choice 11, with the idea being obviously that is a juggernaut type team that didn't look like it in the League's Cup final, but playing them on the road, even without the crash out crybaby Luis Suarez, that's not going to be easy. I think Messi's going to be pissed. So do you throw the book at that game? I kind of hope they rotate more for the Miami game, because think of how good a bit it would be if they play like Snyder, Brunel, and Osaze and then beat Inter Miami again, which I think they could happen. If you do that, you do run the risk of Messi just getting possessed, getting destroyed. But if that happens, I don't know. Is it worth it to try for the bit? I think, yeah, exactly what Eric's saying. Like, I think throwing the book at the Galaxy game and really just trying to make sure, absolute sure you win that. And then you can I don't think you put out a fully rotated lineup for Inter Miami, but you put out something with the hope of like, if it really comes down to it, we can try and scrap for a point in this game. And, if you take the L, you take the L. That was always going to be one of the hardest road games of the season. But oh God, it would be nice. It would be nice to beat them again after their crash out. I hope no one crashes out. I hope I know Suarez isn't going to be out there, but they're going to have a couple of 42-year-olds out there who take swings. Busquets didn't get suspended. He's going to be out there. And he's been known to punch people. So let's hope that he's able to stay calm, have cooler heads prevail, not punch any 20-year-olds. Full rotation for Tuesday. We would be hoping for a draw at best on this long road trip on short rest. Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at. But like, I also feel like this team lately has not been beholden to the normal rules of MLS in that way. Like, they've taken results with lineups out there where under normal circumstances I'd be like, yeah, you're scrapping for a draw with this lineup, and then they win the game and score a bunch of goals. So honestly, I think this Miami game is going to be a very big test of the depth that we've seen used to such great effect recently. The thing about this game that's different is it's such a long road trip, which anytime you have to travel that far, it puts you at a pretty big, like, you're fighting an uphill battle. That's part of why I was never really sold on the idea that Inter Miami was the favorite in the Leagues Cup final, even with Messi and the Barca boys, because they like that's an ultimate MLS road trip that those guys aren't used to, and having to mob across the country and then play on turf, that was always going to be a monumental task for them. It was just kind of tough to gauge because I was thinking of it like that, and I was like, there's just no way that they're going to be immune to that. I don't care who you are. But when you're talking about Messi specifically, it's always a little bit of a different calculation. You can think, when you got like a goated status type player like that, you can think that all the odds are stacked one way, and a lot of the time it just doesn't matter and they win anyway. So that's what I couldn't quite get over the mental hurdle of coming out and being like, Seattle's for sure the favorite, and I think they're going to win this game by multiple goals, because I never want to. It's a very unique situation playing against a goated status player. And I never want to tempt fate on that. I'm superstitious. But it did pan out like that. Now, Seattle going there, it's not like they're going to have to play on a surface that they're not used to. But distance-wise, it is a really long trip. And it's just typically the type of situation in MLS where if you get a draw, you consider that a good result. Like, if they won this, I would take that. You're going to be rotated to some extent. This is one of the farthest distance traveled that you can go in the league. I think the only further distance is Miami to Vancouver. So you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to deal with their 37-year-old players potentially crashing out. That's another variable. You never know what can happen with these guys. It's kind of like Sporting Kansas City, the wrestling enthusiasts. These are the crash outs, okay? You might get a headlock. You might get punched in the face. You might get spit on. You never know. Suarez is suspended, so I would think that he is the only candidate to spit on somebody, but I don't know. I didn't think 37-year-old Sergio Busquets was going to punch anybody, and he punched a 20-year-old. So there's a lot of obstacles at play here, is what I'm saying. There's a lot stacked against you. Yeah, it's far, man. It's far. Florida is far away. I've never been. We were planning on taking a Lobbing Scorchers. We were planning on taking a Lobbing Scorchers trip to Miami for this game. We had it all booked and everything. We were going to go. And then they ended up playing in the League's Cup final. And Seattle played them off the field. And they crashed out, punched Obed Vargas, spit on Gene, and got laughed off the field. And then we were like, I don't think we even need to do that trip anymore. I think we've gotten the content that we need to get from. The whole reason to do it would have been I wanted the novelty of if Seattle is playing against Messi, I want to be there to see that. That's like kind of once in a lifetime. And I didn't know how Leagues Cup was going to work out. So we're not going on that anymore, but the squad is going to have to, and they are they're going to have a tough task for them. I certainly do not expect this game to go like the final did. I mean, if it did, that would be awesome. But I want to see Snyder B start in Miami. I would be happy to see Osaze start in Miami. I think you can start Yamar and Jackson Reagan for both of these games. Obed's probably going to start both of these games. Let's be real. But God, I just love the depth on this team right now, because most MLS teams, it's like, all right, if we have to rotate the right back, there's a huge drop off. When Seattle has to rotate Alex Roldan, I'm legitimately excited to watch KKR, you know? Cody Baker got loaned to Sacramento Republic, but if Nuhu ever has to rotate for a game, I feel great about John Bell if he has to play that position. I feel great. Like it's so nice having Snyder B get called up, sign with the first team, and the prospect of him playing in a rotated lineup. I'm like, yes, play him. Let's see if he can keep doing what he's been doing, which is not just scoring goals, but like looking like the next Obed. That's what he looks like. I want to see if he can keep doing that. So it's just I think we shouldn't take that for granted. Like most other seasons, pretty much every other season that I've followed this team, there's just these realities of MLS where if you have fixture congestion and a couple injuries, you're like, all right, well, the lineup that's going to be out there today, the lineup that's going to be out there for the game is going to be like a third choice lineup in most spots because it's rotated and you have all these injuries, and the team is going to probably lose 1-0, and then we're going to have to do all this crash out discourse about how they don't have ambition anymore. And then it's just like, all right, well, you had like 6 Tacoma Defiance guys out there because of this, and this, so that wasn't the real lineup, and we're doing the crash out discourse anyway. It gets tiresome. That's what most MLS fan bases have to do. That's what this fan base had to do. It's not like anyone was really ever immune to that. You had the occasional outliers, but even in these years where like LAFC scored 65 plus points or got 65 plus points and had like plus 45 goal differentials. They had games baked in there that were like that, where when they were rotated, they got blown off the field. Inter Miami sent the points record last year and had a game in Cincinnati where they lost 6-1 in a situation like that. I'm not saying this Sounders team is immune to that. I definitely wouldn't tempt fate like that, but at least since Club World Cup, it doesn't seem like it's mattered who they put out there. Like that's how confident I feel right now, which that could very well crash and burn. We heard that was the other thing from the Schmetz presser that I noted, which is he was talking about how they were reflecting on 2022 and kind of what happened after CONCACAF Champions League and why they had such a drastic fall off, reflecting on that and how to avoid that in this situation. Because that is, I will say, one thing that I'm concerned about right now is when you play a tournament like that and every game is such a big game, every moment of every game is so critical. It's the physical toll of it, of playing all those games. But to me, a lot of what happened in 22, it was both things. But a lot of what happened in 22 was they never were able to get back to that psychological place of like every second of every game matters in the same way that it does when you're in a tournament. And it's just hard. Like when you're playing away at FC Dallas and it's 87 degrees in Frisco, Texas at Toyota Stadium, and you just played the biggest, most emotional game of your life and you won and you've done all this celebrating. It's not, I think it's a lot harder than we probably realize to just get yourself back into the place mentally where you're playing your sharpest and your best and your hardest. And I don't think they were never able to recapture that in 22. And so when I look at the rest of this season, like this stretch run and into the playoffs, that's the biggest thing that they're going to have to guard against. And Schmetz talked about it. He said they're working very hard on the messaging of the psychological component of that. So that's good to hear that they're like on top of that. I also think this team is different than the 22 team. I think they are better equipped for a situation like this than that team was. That team lost JP in the final, and at that point JP was kind of like the heart and soul of the team. So that was a debilitating loss. Any chance they had of maintaining their level that year went away with that injury in a way that I don't think we realized at the time. Obed was just coming onto the scene at that time, and he played well that year, but he was not the Obed that he is now. Now he is this super turbocharged version of Obed, who's one of the best players in the league. So that'll help. And this is just a deeper team. I think this is the deepest team. People are calling this, pundits other than myself have been calling this the deepest team in MLS history. I don't know about that, but I know it's the deepest Sounders team I've ever seen, and it's deeper than the 22 team. Joe says in 2022, they didn't have the depth to challenge the starters due to injury. Ladero and Ruiz checked out for the second half, and there wasn't anyone to check them. Yeah, I don't know if they checked out, but like as far as if they needed to, I mean, I think there was like, wasn't Ruiz like injured for a while or something? I feel like he was usually dealing with something, and then after that, but like your point stands. Like they didn't have the depth and the firepower to be able to go into situations where they had to rotate and field a mixed and match lineup on the road and still take results. There was the physical toll that the tournament took on them. And then, I don't know, didn't it just feel like they were playing like, it was like a slog that year. I remember that season being like, this can't be over soon enough. Like it wasn't quite what the LA Galaxy did in terms of how they won MLS Cup and then cratered this badly this year to the point where they just want this season to be over. But that was tough. Lobbing Scorchers was not around back then. But those would have been tough shows. So we'll see. I mean, I think that whole issue, that's gonna be the biggest storyline as to whether this team is going to be able to go into the playoffs and maintain their level and make a push for MLS Cup, or if it's going to be a situation where they used all their gas on this tournament and they crash out in the playoffs. I think another thing they have going for them, though, is that these games are all important. Like, they are not safe for a top 4 seed by any stretch of the imagination. They got to win this Galaxy game. That's priority numero uno. They got to win this, get up to 47 points, keep their cushion on LAFC, who LAFC has the Quakes on the road, that's not an easy game. Go Quakes. If the Quakes can beat LAFC and Seattle can win this Galaxy game, that would be huge. And then there's not like so much pressure on the Miami game. But the Miami game, like, you can't just chalk that as an L. You got to really scrap for at least a point there. You guys are right. Obed did have the back injury that year. I think he did. That I don't remember exactly how that all went, but that couldn't have helped matters. He was literally 16 at the time, which is crazy to think about. He went into that final and replaced JP, and they still won the game 3-0. Yeah, it was sort of the end of peak Rui Diaz. Yeah. What if it's an MLS final of Sounders versus Inter Miami? Yeah, we've thought of that. And the likelihood that would be in Miami would be pretty high because they are quite a bit ahead of Seattle in the Shield race at this point. I really don't want that. I don't want that because that's the only narrative that their whole fan base and their team can use to tell themselves that they can we'll settle the score. We'll erase everything about the League's Cup final if we host MLS Cup against them and we beat them. And that would be a really hard game to win. It would be a really epic game to win as well if they were able to do it. But I just want I want Messi, like the when he thinks of Seattle in his brain, I want what pops into his head to be Obed Vargas and Christian Roldan owning him at Lumen Field, and then watching the other team lift a trophy while you and all your boys who just started a huge fight and spit on somebody have to watch. I want that to be the image of Seattle that's seared into his mind forever. I feel like if they host MLS Cup and beat Seattle, then he'll have this thing where it's like, oh, well, yeah, they got me that one time, but then I got him the next time and it's redeemed. I don't want that. I don't want that. But it could very feasibly happen. It could very feasibly happen because Seattle is probably not going to finish ahead of Miami on points in league play. And we all know Seattle goes God mode come tournament time. So it's not a far leap of the imagination to think that they could make it out of the West and then have to travel to whatever Eastern Conference destination would be hosting, because the East, if you look at the table, the East is they have way more teams that have way more points than everyone in the West. So it's pretty. It's hard to see a scenario unless something changes. But if it stays roughly the same, the East is going to be hosting Cup this year, and it's always possible that Miami will make it out of the East. Although I don't know how much they lost to Brad Guzan and the gang in the playoffs last year, if we all remember, famously. Joe, members for 7 months. Thank you for your support, man. Appreciate you. I want Pedro living in Messi's head rent free. Exactly. Right now he does. Obed Vargas definitely does. We know that. The whole team is in his head rent free. I want every time Lionel Messi thinks about the city of Seattle for that trophy lift to be in his brain and for him to get flashbacks of Obed Vargas bullying him off the ball in the penalty box. That needs to be his memory of Seattle. But if Seattle, if this theoretical MLS Cup rematch did take place and Seattle won it, then you'd be even more in his head. It would be a phenomenal opportunity, because if they win MLS Cup in Miami against Messi and the Barca boys, Seattle is I think solidified as the team that kind of owns Messi. No one's going to give them that title off one win in a final. But if you do it again on the road, who's going to tell you anything if you want to say that you're the club that owns Messi? I mean, come on. You do it once, people can write it off as whatever, fluke, or anything can happen in one game. You do it twice, you can kind of say whatever you want. It's just one of those things where I don't know if that potential payoff would make me want that. I feel like the narrative right now is exactly where I want it. So we'll see what happens. I mean, for that to happen, Inter Miami would have to make MLS Cup, which is not something that they have done in the Messi and the Barca boys era. We know that. Well, I'm going to be curious to see what happens with them, man, because they already were in a situation where people were talking about how they can't win the big game or whatever. I never really read that much into that, because playoffs, anything can happen. And the fact that Atlanta beat them, I think Atlanta beat them in the two-leg, the first round, wasn't it? Anything can happen in the playoffs. And also, they did win Leagues Cup in 2023. So, but then, the more you look back on that, it's like they were playing all MLS teams except for Cruz Azul in the very first game. So it's not like they had the hardest path of all time to win that Leagues Cup. And then they won the Shield, but then got bounced out of the playoffs by Brad Guzan going God mode on them. So at this point, I feel like the narrative around them is they have not come through when it's mattered. And they have so much pressure on them in the playoffs this year. I think they have more pressure on them than any team by far. Because if they crash out again, I think, Noah's been saying that their whole project is on the rocks. They have a chance to make that not the case. If they win MLS Cup this year, everyone will be happy and they'll be validated. They'll probably be able to keep most of the gang together next season. If they crash out in the playoffs again and they don't make MLS Cup, and as Kyle points out too, they're not good defensively. Like that, even when they're playing their best, they're not good defensively. When they're playing their best, they can just score 4 to 6 goals in any given game and win that way, even if they give up 2 or 3. But I think that's sort of to your point. Like, when you get to the playoffs, you got to play guys like Brad Guzan, okay? And if you're not on your stuff, Brad Guzan, he'll get you out of there. I mean, I just remember watching Brad Guzan going out of his mind, swatting away all these shots for Messi and the Barca boys, racking up like 4xG and getting shut out by a really not good Atlanta United team that just squeaked into the playoffs barely. That was Messi's real welcome to MLS moment. His real welcome to MLS moment was when he got knocked out of the playoffs by Brad Guzan in a team that was starting like, I don't know, who were they starting like? They didn't have Almiron back yet. Who was even Atlanta United's best player? Who's their best player last year? I don't remember. I literally don't remember. And that's who Inter Miami lost to. Not gonna lie, Miami gonna be a tough match because they would want revenge. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about a theoretical MLS Cup rematch or this game on Tuesday, but I think Messi's gonna be pretty pissed on Tuesday. He's gonna have vengeance on the mind. I was thinking about this too because I've watched the highlights of the final a million times. And if you watch the famous shot that he missed and put into the 27th row, I think why he missed it so badly. I'm not giving him an excuse. But if you just watch the replay, I think you'll see what I mean. That ball skips on the Lumen turf a little bit, and I think it messed with like how he was shooting it just enough that he skied it that badly. And I bring it up because I think in his head, he's like, that turf, man. Like if we're playing that game on grass, I freaking make that shot. I never miss that shot. I only miss that shot because of the turf. And if I do make that, it's 1-1, and then we have all the momentum and we would have won the game. So Messi's like, man, I only lost the Leagues Cup final in Seattle because of the turf. And when they come to my house and we're playing on grass, I'm going to kill these guys. He's going to put that notion in his own head. He's going to go out playing like a godforsaken maniac because he's pissed off. I think that's how he's thinking of it. How often does he miss that shot? Like, the reason I was watching it was because I was just like, I can't believe he missed that. I'm not trying to give him an out, Hunch. Not trying to give him an out. I'm more saying like this is how I think he thinks of it. I think that's how he's thinking of it. For me, it's like, even if it is the reason that you missed the shot, get slammed, dude. That's why you need to get home field advantage so you can play it at your house and you don't have to deal with that. It's called home field advantage. And that's why when people complain about the Seattle turf and they're like, they need to move to a grass field or try and convince the Seahawks to like put down grass. Nah, man, the turf that's the home field advantage. That's what it gives you. It gives you situations where you can have a player maybe miss a shot in part because of it. Home field advantage. I do expect him to be pissed off though. To me, it seemed like Obed was already in his head and he was frustrated and he kicked that ball a bit too hard. That could be it too. It could be both things. I'm saying, like, when I watched the replay, to me it looked like it literally skipped up. It skipped up. I mean, you guys watch the replay. You can tell me if I'm tripping. how's Kent and Rusnak these days? Kent, I'm not sure about, but Rusnak is supposedly ready to play this weekend. I don't know if he's going to start. I don't know if Rusnak and Jordan are going to start, but I think they both will get some minutes. And I feel like it's more likely Rusnak will start. I think he's going to start one of these two games, but I don't know. The lineup question, that's going to be interesting. All right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping it up because I'm going on this Galaxy show soon. If you want to watch me on that, it is called La Cuna Galaxiana. I'll drop that in the chat if you search this into YouTube. This is where I'm going to be hanging out previewing this game. I got to spread the Lobbing Scorchers gospel, so I'm wrapping a little early, but I went an hour 30 for you guys, which honestly, that's what Under the Lights is supposed to be anyway. I just always go 2 or 3 hours because I'm a fiend. But redirect, I don't know if I don't know how to do that, but if you search that into YouTube, the show should come up. I'm going to be talking Sounders Galaxy with them. I have this teaser for the vlog here that I'm going to show you guys. Noah emailed it to me, so I'm going to try and play this. This should get you hyped. I don't think I've even seen this. I've seen the drafts of the video, but they're going live at 9, but I'm supposed to go on at around 9:20, but I'm going to hop off here around 9 and chill for a sec and then hop on with them. But I am going to, here's the trailer for our vlog, guys. Oh, whoops. This should get you guys hyped. Vlog should drop before Tuesday, yeah. We are out front of Lumen Field right now. We're walking in to get our credentials. J.O., you were saying that this is kind of a different scene than anything you've ever seen around here.
Yeah, it's definitely a different scene. And, I've been to, a lot of games with this size of a crowd. And I got to tell you, the energy feels different. This feels like a different thing.
Oh, there you go. They have a date on it. Tomorrow. I didn't know we had established that. I knew that's kind of what we were hoping for, but there you have it. Vlog drops tomorrow. It's pretty much done. We might have Eric doing some like final tweaks, but it's going to be, I've seen the drafts. I haven't seen the final version, but it's fire. It's fire. We'll probably like put that teaser out tomorrow on our socials and then drop it like during the day or maybe in the evening. I don't know. We have not coordinated this yet. So we'll coordinate all that, but they put 9/12/2025 on there. So that would seem to indicate that the plan is to drop it tomorrow. And it's going to be, I still can't believe how blessed we got with the content between how the game went, but then like the brawl. It was just incredible for Lobbing Scorchers. Okay. Teaser is already on Instagram. I'm so out of the loop. God, the teaser's already on Instagram. Follow us on IG if you haven't. You can go watch it again. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. La Cuna Galaxiana. Search it up. I'm literally gonna be on there in like 20 minutes previewing this game. And then we'll be at it on Saturday with our post game live, taking calls and stuff as well. It's back to the normal routine. You guys already know. So I'll see you all in 20 minutes if you want to hop over there, or on Saturday. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys, and catch you soon. Peace.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere, and some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.